Broadcasting live to Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Periscope, Twitch, and so much more. This is Go Live with Restream from your host, Ian Anderson Gray, the show that helps you expand your audience and reach through the power of multi-streaming video.
Hello, sorry about that. My name's Ian Anderson Gray and welcome to the Go Live with Restream show. I was a little bit trigger happy on that video, wasn't I? So apologies for that, but thank you so much for joining me today. This show, as always, is all about helping you to expand your audience and reach through the power of multi-streaming video. And in today's show, I'm very excited because I'm going to be talking about how you can use or how you can find the best tools and gear for your multi-streamed live video shows. As always, we're broadcasting to a plethora of different channels, including Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitch, Periscope, DLive, and so much more. So thank you so much for tuning in. And I'd love to know where in the world you are watching from. I can see lots of lovely people in the room. So who have we got? We've got, let's have a look. We've got Danilo watching from Brazil. Great to see you here. We've got Rebecca Stanley watching from Arizona. And yes, so that's from Brazil. And then we've got Melissa watching from just down the road. Great to see you. And Martin Buckland is watching from Toronto. Awesome to see you guys. Pocket Video School saying, hey, Ian. Great to see you. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in on the show. Today, as I said before, we're going to be talking about gear and tools and tech. Now, on the show, I've talked about lots of different things in the past. We've talked about how to plan your shows. We've talked about repurposing. We've talked a little bit about gear. We did had Mike Russell on the show, and we talked a little bit about the best microphones to use. But yeah, we've focused on strategy and planning and all that kind of stuff and repurposing and content, but we've not really got on to the tech and the gear. And I know that is a subject that many of you are really interested in, or at least it's a subject that you want to know more about. You want to find the best gear and tools and tech for you. So I'd love to know your questions and your thoughts. Everyone has their kind of opinion, I think, on the best microphone, camera, and all this kind of stuff. So I'm going to tell you my thoughts on that, and we can get a really cool discussion going on there. Some other people watching live. We've got Josh Daniel watching from Charlotte, North Carolina. Yes, North Carolina. I've been to Charlotte. I love North Carolina. It's a great part of the world. Hope you're doing really well there. Louise is watching from High Peak in England. That's just down the road from me. Lovely part of the world. And we've got, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name here, Nazian watching from Michigan. And we've also got Aminul watching from the UK. So we are a global audience, which is great. Okay, well, just a little bit. I've just realized. So this is typical. With tech, sometimes the tech is great, but sometimes the tech doesn't work. And for some reason, my teleprompter, which I was going to recommend, is not working today. So I've got a little remote control, and I normally print it out, but my printer's not working. So I'm going to have to I've got all my show notes in front of me, and you're going to have to excuse me as I just scroll it up and down. But yeah, just to tell you about Restream. Restream powers this show, and it is the complete multi-streaming suite, really. I think that's the best way of describing it for entrepreneurs. With Restream, you can stream to multiple platforms all at the same time. And that's what I'm doing today. We're broadcasting to Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Periscope, and a lot more, including things like Mixcloud, which is a great platform. So it allows you to do that really, really easily. And you can either do this from your browser using Restream Studio, which I'm using today. This is really the easiest way to get started with multi-streaming. With Restream Studio, you can basically just go onto your browser, go to restream.io, and you can bring in guests. You can have up to 9 guests on the screen. You can see all your comments, which is amazing, which is great. I can see that Melissa says she has 4 printers. Maybe I can send it to you. Thank you, Melissa. But yeah, it's a great platform through the web. It works really, really easily. You can put captions on the screen as well. So you can do things like that. Restream Studio, go live from your browser. You can also put videos and graphics and all that kind of cool stuff. So it's awesome. A really, really amazing platform. As well as the Restream Studio, if you prefer to use a different tool like OBS Studio or Ecamm Live, you don't have to just use the browser. You can broadcast from those tools to Restream, and then Restream will take care of that and broadcast it, multicast that to all those different platforms, which is amazing. The chat feature is awesome. I've downloaded the chat app to my computer so I can see all the chat. Of course, in Restream Studio, you've got all the comments going there. And there's some really cool things, like you've got the ability you've got the bot, the Restream bot, that allows, that basically puts all the comments, say, from Facebook onto YouTube. So doesn't matter where you are watching this, you will be able to see the comments from all the other platforms on the platform that you're watching. So loads of cool things. Definitely check it out. And to find out more, all you need to do is go to iag.me/restream. I'm just looking for it. Where is it? I don't have it here. So I'm going to just put it as a caption so that you've got it there. iag.me/restream. And you can play around with it for free. There's a free platform and free plans and some paid platforms as well. Awesome. Great. So let's see if we got who else we've got here. We've got Nick watching from Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale, I should say, and I don't quite know what this is. I'm also saying, is the RAID to use yet? Maybe if you could explain what you mean by that. Cool. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to talk about when it comes to this is microphones and audio gear. Why am I focusing on the audio first? Where, we're talking about live video here. Surely video is the most important thing. Well, yes, except actually if people can't hear you, if the audio quality isn't that great, then people are going to switch off, and we don't want that. So, what you need to think about really is to level things up and go for the first thing I would recommend that you buy is a better microphone. Now, I will say first of all, if you want to just use your inbuilt webcam and your inbuilt microphone, that's totally cool. That's the best way to start. Just start with what you've got. But if you're wanting to level things up, the first thing that I would look at doing is getting a microphone, getting a better microphone. And the one that I would recommend is the Samson QTU. So the Samson QTU is a really, really cool microphone. I've used it many times before. And I'm just going to show you. So this is the Samsung QTU. Let me just find this for you, and I can share my screen and show you this, because the reason I recommend the Samsung QTU is because it's an inexpensive microphone, and it's also gives you really good quality as well. So let's just show you this. So this is the Samsung QTU. Now, is that going to work? Let's have a quick look. Are you seeing that? No, you're not. Let's put that up there. So the Samsung QTU. So this is it on Amazon, and this is actually the podcasting pack. So you can actually get the microphone even cheaper than this. But if you go for the Samsung QTU with the podcasting pack, you get a little stand, you get a pop filter, and everything that you need. And the great thing about the Samsung QTU is that it's a USB mic, so you can plug it straight into your computer. You don't need to have a mixing desk. You don't have to have anything fancy like that. It's just a really quick and easy microphone to use. But if you want to get fancy later on, it does have an XLR output. So if you want to get fancy and get a mixer or get an audio interface, then you can do that later. So the Samsung QTU is a great microphone, really good quality, and it's definitely what I'd recommend. Now, a lot of people have start off with the Blue Yeti microphone. So I wonder whether anyone in the house has got the Blue Yeti microphone. The Blue Yeti is a condenser microphone, and it's a really nice microphone, and it's actually what I started off with, the Blue Yeti. So it's a condenser microphone, so you don't have to have it quite so close to you. So if you're wanting to have something that's a little bit out of view, then the Blue Yeti is really good. So let me just share my screen here so you can see this. So the Blue Yeti. So it's more expensive than the Samsung QTU, but it's a really nice microphone. It's really flexible. If you want to do, for example, interviews with somebody behind the microphone, you can get it so that it picks up in front of you and behind. For most people, though, you're going to want to put it on the cardioid setting, so it picks up directly in front of you. Now, downsides with the Samsung QTU, not the Samsung QTU, the Blue Yeti microphone. Well, first of all, it is a bit more expensive. Second of all, it tends to pick up absolutely everything if you're not too careful. So if you have got a lot of background noise, if you've got the kids watching Netflix downstairs or something like that, then if you're not too careful, it's going to pick up a lot of that. So you don't want that. So what I recommend with the Blue Yeti is to turn the gain down and put it closer to you. And so what it's going to do is going to just pick up your voice and not so much background noise. So that's the downside. The third downside with it is, and it's a good microphone, I'm not knocking it, but just want you to know the downsides. The third downside is that it's USB only. And for many of you, that's not going to be a deal killer. But if you want to later on level things up, if you want to buy like a mixer or an audio interface, then the Blue Yeti isn't going to help you there because it's USB only, unless you go for the Blue Yeti Pro. So that's the Blue Yeti. So I wonder whether any of you have got any of those microphones, whether you've got the Blue Yeti, you've got the Samsung Q2U, have you got some other microphone out there? Natalie says, yes, using the Blue Yeti. How are you getting on with that? Are you finding that that works really well for you? So Martin says, how does that compare with the Yeti? So in my opinion, the Samsung Q2U gives, for most people, will give a much better quality than the Yeti out of the box. With the Yeti, you can get a really good quality, but you do need to play around with the settings. So you do need to put the gain down. You need to have it closer to you. Make sure you've got it on cardioid. I think for beginners, people starting off, I would recommend the Samsung Q2U. Mark Orr says, yeah, I started with the Blue Yeti as well. It's what I used the Blue Yeti for years and years, actually. And I only upgraded about 3 years ago. So for the first 2 years of live streaming, I was using the Blue Yeti. It worked really, really well. Natalie says, I do have a lot of echo with it. And I think the thing with the Blue Yeti is that, yeah, if you have it too far away from you, it could pick up a lot of background noise. So a few other things for you to think about. Oh yeah, I can see a few other questions. So Rebecca says, could the Yeti work for filming a parade? So that's a really interesting one. Yeah, so because it's a condenser microphone, it does pick up sound from further away, and there's different settings on it. So you could use it to pick up sound that's further away. It even works remotely. So what's the word? It even works in a mobile situation. So if you have a special adapter dongle, you can plug the Yeti into most iPhones and Android phones as well via USB. Wouldn't be what I'd recommend, but it's definitely something that you can do. And Nizian says, I have the Blue Yeti. So it's absolutely fine. It's a great one to start with. But if you haven't bought a microphone, I recommend getting the Samsung Q2U just because it's easier. A lot of the gear that I'm talking about today, by the way, is at this website here, iag.me/gear guide. I've got all my top tools and gear on that page. So if you want to go to that, it's the best place to go to. Okay, so the next thing that you might want to think about, and this is if you have a Blue Yeti, if you have the Samsung Q2U, or if you have fancier microphone like I've got, and I'll show you a little bit more about some fancier microphones. But the next thing that you will want to think about is to get a boom arm. Now you can see I've got a boom arm here. In fact, let me just, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just use my other webcam here so I can show you a little bit more of what I've got here. Okay, hopefully you can see this okay. So this microphone I've got here, I've got in what's called a shock mount. So this thing here that the microphone is in is called a shock mount. And the great thing about this is that if I wobble this around, if I shake it, you shouldn't hear too much banging around. It basically keeps the microphone really stable, which is what you want. So if you're kind of like banging the desk or whatever like that, it's going to keep the microphone nice and stable. The shock mount is totally optional. That adds a bit of expense, but the thing that I would invest in is this, and this is a boom arm. So I've got this clamped onto the desk, and then I've got the cable running down to it, and then into the microphone here. So that you can get this for the Samsung Q2U, or you can get one for the Blue Yeti, or any other microphone. But the boom arm is great because, again, it means that if you're banging the desk or doing any kind of, if you're, I don't know, you're making some noises and sounds and rumbles and all this kind of stuff, it's not going to pick up in the microphone. So the first thing I would do is get a microphone. The second thing I would do is get a boom arm. If you've got the budget, get the shock mount as well. And I've got some details on that gear page as well. It just gives it a little bit more professional feel to it. So I hope that is useful. So yeah, Rebecca says thank you. So great comment here from Rob. Room treatment, moving blankets and the like will help with room reverb and echo. Oh, so I think you were referring back to Natalie's comment there about the echo. So I wasn't sure, Natalie, when you were talking about like echo in the room that you've got, and so yeah, that's a really good point actually. I think I misheard what you were saying there. So if your room is quite empty, if you don't have carpets and things like that, then a condenser microphone like the Samsung Q2U will pick up a lot of that reverberation around the room, which is probably not what you want. Whereas a dynamic microphone picks up what's directly in front of you. So although it will still pick up a little bit of echo and reverberation around you, it's much better that way. Sound treatment. So Rob says about room treatment, moving blankets and the like. So you don't have to buy, you may have seen, you can get these acoustic panels and you can put them on the wall and on the ceiling. You can get them, well, they are more expensive. You can get them at a reasonable cost. They tend to be, when you have to use them a lot, it does tend to add a lot of money to the bill. So I love the idea of a blanket. So you could put like drapes of like curtains and blankets around just to kind of deaden the room a little bit. That's a really good idea, Rob. I like that. And Rob also says, my audio setup is fine, but I struggle with guests and co-hosts. What do you recommend your guests that gets good audio with minimal hassle? That's a really good point, Rob. So yeah, most of what I'm talking about today is all about you, the host. But if you have guests on your show, what I recommend that you do, first of all, is send them a checklist. And if you want to know more about checklists, I talked about this not last week because I wasn't here, but the week before that was all about checklists. So make sure that you give your guest a checklist so that they know exactly what they're in for in coming onto your show. Things like they're wearing headphones or earbuds, that they are using a microphone if possible, that they're using a computer, all those kind of things. There's a checklist and making sure everything's okay. Now, I know that some people, they really struggle with their guests on their audio, and they actually go out of the way to send their guests a microphone in the mail. So you could do that. And so what I've done in the past when I've worked with clients, I personally don't go to the bother of sending a microphone in the post to my guests, because most of the people I have on my show have had some experience with podcasting and live video. But when I've worked with clients, I've sometimes recommended that they get a microphone. And the one that I always recommend is the Samsung Q2U, just because it's so easy. They just, particularly if it has the stand. So they just put it on their desk, they plug it in via USB, and it works really well. And I've worked with at least 4 clients where we've done that, and it makes a massive, massive difference. So that's the first thing. And then if they can wear headphones, that just sorts out any kind of potential echo or anything like that. But if you're using a tool like Restream Studio or other tools that may have this, Restream Studio has echo cancellation and background noise reduction. So if you have a guest and they've got really bad background noise, the system should be able to fix all of that. So I hope that's really helpful to you, Rob. That's what I do. Yeah, Natalie says, yes, echo in the room, no carpet, tiles on the floor. Yeah, so what I'd recommend is if you can do some little treatment, you might be able to say, for example, get some rugs or get a blanket or even like a duvet or whatever, hang stuff up around you. That will deaden the room a lot more. Just play around with it. But the other thing is, if you have the Yeti, just get it close to you, put the gain down, and I think that's going to really, really help you there. Okay, Lena says, watching from Israel. Great to see you. Hope you're doing really well. Rob says, thank you, sir. It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for your comment and your thoughts on this. I really appreciate that. So I think for most people, the something like the Samsung Q2U, the Yeti are great. There are loads more higher level microphones. And if you're interested in that, then go back to the episode. It was about episode 2 or 3 where I had Mike Russell on the show. He's an audio expert, and we talked all about different microphones. We got really quite geeky in that episode, actually. So check that out. Now, the microphone that I have here is the Heil PR40 microphone, and this is beloved by podcasters all around the world. Now, for me, audio is really, really important. So I wanted to go for something that was really excellent. Now, there are more expensive microphones than this out there. There are some condenser microphones that are much more expensive than this, but I really like the Heil PR40. I like the way it makes my voice sound. And yeah, it's great. And it's on that gear guide. So if you go to the iag.me/gear guide, you can see this. This is an XLR only microphone. So you can't plug it directly into your computer. You need to get an interface to be able to do this. And so what I'd recommend is the one that I'd recommend is an audio interface is the Scarlett 2i2, the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2. And I'll show you, let me just show you that 1 second. So there's the gear guide. Okay, so let me just go back to that and hopefully you can see this okay. Okay, so let me just go back up there. So, okay, so I've got the Heil PR40 there. I've got the boom arm. I've got the shock mount. And I've also got a pop filter. Those are all the things that I use. The DBX286S, this is a bit geeky, but what this does is, this is a preamp processor, totally optional. This is a lot more tricky to use, but basically what this does is it treats my voice. It gets rid of background noise. It reduces any hissing or pops and things like that. And it just deepens my voice a little bit more. That's totally optional, but I basically plug my microphone into that. And then that plugs into my Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 digital interface. You know, you could go for the Solo, that's a cheaper one. But basically, you plug the XLR into this, and then you plug that into your computer. It's really, really cool. I love it. And it's not too expensive. So that's the one I'd recommend there. Now, I'll show you a little bit more about my setup. So I need to just get my other microphone? It's not a microphone, it's a webcam. So I'll just show you this. So... okay, hold on a minute. Right, okay. So I've got my microphone. Okay, and then it goes down there, and just move my cup of tea. That's my DBX286S. So when I speak, you should be able to see it is whirring away there. You can see the levels. If I speak really loudly like that, then actually what it should do is reduce the volume, so it compresses the sound. If I speak very quietly, then it should compress it as well. This thing here will switch off. It's a noise gate, so when I'm not speaking, it will actually switch off the audio, so it won't pick up any background noise. So that's the DBX286S. Up here, if I can get in focus, is come on, get in focus. There we go. This is the Scarlett 2i2. So I plug the back of the microphone or the DBX286S into this, and then this then plugs into my MacBook Pro there, or whatever computer you're using there. So that's my setup. By the way, I hope you like my standing desk, which is basically, I'll show you. So I've got an IKEA desk on top of another desk, and I've got it. I've actually got some paint pots here that are propping it up. So you don't always have to go for the high-tech stuff here. And then I've got a box file. And then I've got a little laptop cooler as well there. So just to let you know, it doesn't always have to be high-tech. So great. Okay, cool. Let's see. So Gary is watching on Facebook from Oregon. Great to see you. Gary, what does Gary say? So... you've got a Focusrite Solo. Someone said the nice thing is that you can add more expensive preamps as your budget increases. Any preamps you would recommend for digital piano and voice? Really good point. So Gary, yeah, I totally agree with that comment. So I'm a big believer in bootstrapping your live video studio. Start off with simple. So that's the other reason I would recommend the Samsung QTU microphone, because it does have an XLR output. So to begin with, just plug it in, bung it in via USB. But as you progress, then you can then maybe get a digital audio interface like the Scarlett and upgrade it that way. And also then you can buy a preamp. Now, I'm not sure I'm not an expert when it comes to lots of preamps out there. I think you'll be absolutely fine with what you've got, just with the Solo is really good. But I would recommend looking at the DBX286S, particularly for voice. Whether it works with digital piano and voice is my concern, and that's why I'm a little bit cautious as whether to recommend the DBX286S, because it's really fantastic for voice, and that's the one I'd recommend. But if you're going to put in a digital piano, it's almost as if you kind of need two different preamps there. And the DBX2XX is a one-channel preamp. So anyway, if you get in touch with me, I'll have a look around and see if I can recommend anything else there. But it's a really good question. Rob saying hi from Canada. Yes, lots of people from Canada, which is great. Rebecca saying, LOL, it works. Okay. So Dima says, do you recommend the audio interfaces by Universal Audio with their fancy classic gear emulators? Now, do you know what? I haven't played around with those, so I can't give you any personal experience with that, but you've certainly given me an idea. I will play around with that. I personally prefer to have an external physical audio interface. So yeah, I haven't really tried any of that kind of stuff, but I will definitely check that out. And Martin says, do you have to have full plant pot? Why do I keep saying plant pot? Paint pots, or is empty okay? I think these are half empty. So we actually found these in the garage. They from our previous owners. So I think they're kind of half full. But I mean, basically, it just depends on how heavy your desk is on top of it. So it's a good question. I don't know. Right. Okay, cool. I hope that answers your question, Martin. So we've talked about, I think we've basically talked about microphones and audio gear. So I think it's now time to talk about cameras. So I'd love to know which cameras are you using for your live streams and for other stuff? You know, which cameras are you using? Now, again, I believe in bootstrapping this. Start small. You don't have to spend any money on this. If you have a laptop with an internal webcam, just use that. That's absolutely fine. That's the best way to start. But if you have a bit of budget, then I do recommend buying an external webcam. And you don't have to go for a really, really new one. The one I've been using, actually, to show you around the studio, is one of these. It's a Logitech C920 microphone. If I say that again, I'm going to slap myself. Webcam. It's the Logitech C920 webcam. And these are actually really quite old now. You can still buy them. They're still current, but they've been around for years and years and years. And this is how I started with live streaming, years and years ago. And they're relatively inexpensive. It's what I'd recommend that you go for. So to begin with, what you could do is just use your internal webcam. If you can upgrade, then go for a C920. And I'm going to show you the difference in quality. So if I switch now, I'm going to go to my internal webcam now. So this is my internal webcam. So let me know, is the difference really substantial? I'm looking at the wrong camera. I'm going to now look at this camera. What do you think of the difference? This is my internal webcam. Does this completely put you off? Would you stop watching a live stream if somebody had this? I don't think so. It's not great. It's not amazing. But does it want you to switch off the live stream? Probably not. Okay, so that's my inbuilt webcam on my MacBook Pro. So if I now put my C920 on top of my computer, okay, so you can't see that now, but this is the C920. Now it's probably not at the best height. So if I just lift it up slightly and I look into the camera, then that is the C920. So it's okay. It's pretty good. So that's the C920. And then if I then go up to my next one, which is the one I use, this is the Canon M50, the Canon EOS M50 camera. So this is it's not a digital SLR, but it's a mirrorless camera, and it's what a lot of YouTubers, a lot of live streamers use. It's really great. You can plug it in directly to your PC or Mac using USB if you have some extra software, or you could get one of these things. The Camlink, it's the Elgato Camlink dongle. So you can buy one of these. You don't need to get these because I think with the M50 you can plug it directly in. But I'll come on to that in a little bit. I would love to know which cameras you use and whether you've noticed a big difference in the way that looks. So I'll come back. So some points about amp questions, which I'll come back to in a minute. Dave Brown says, hello, Ian. Good morning from California. It must be very early. It's 8:30 in the morning in California. Hope things are doing well with you. Gary is saying iPhone, so I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Mark Orr says, I use vMix. So I use microphone processing built in to improve my audio with a Sennheiser mic connected to my XLR, by XLR to my Sony camera. My goodness. Okay, so we're going back to audio. Let's talk about audio and I'll come back to cameras. So great. So vMix is a great tool for PC. It's a live streaming tool. It integrates with Restream as well. So you can stream directly from vMix to Restream and then do all the multi-streaming that way. So what you're doing, so I use mic processing built in. So is that vMix has the processing built into it. So some live streaming tools have some processing built in. I know Ecamm does, OBS kind of does. So you do that with a Sennheiser mic, which is connected via XLR to your Sony camera. So you've connected your microphone to your camera, which I assume you're then bringing in back into your computer via HDMI. We're getting a bit geeky here, but that's a really good way of doing it. I personally prefer to use an external processor, but that way is totally cool. That's a really good setup. So thank you for that. Okay, cool. So Natalie says, I use my iMac camera and I like the quality and makes things simpler, honestly. Well, that's really cool. So yeah, if it works really well for you, I personally, maybe the iMac camera is better than the MacBook Pro camera, but I think for spending an extra £60, $60, euros, whatever currency you're in, and it really isn't not a big deal just to plug an external webcam and just plonk it on top. I just like that. I think it's worth doing, but yeah. And Dave Brown says, start with what you have, upgrade later. Just start. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. My goodness. I so agree with that. And I should have said this before, actually. This was one of the things I wanted to say right at the start. Don't let the gear get in the way of you going live. There's so many things that are stopping us from going live, that's screaming in our heads to not go live. It's kind of like live video is like this tiger in front of you that's about to jump up and eat you. Your prehistoric part of your brain is screaming at you, you're gonna die. So it comes up with all these excuses to try and convince you not to go live. And one of the biggest ones is the gear. In your head, I wonder if any of you identify with this, because I certainly had this issue. In your head, you think, I'll go live, but I first of all, I need to sort out my camera. I need to sort out my microphone. I need to sort out my tools. I need to sort out all this, and this. And actually, for most people, that's an excuse. You don't need any of that stuff to go live. So start with what you've got. As Dave says, totally agree with that. Rebecca Stanley says, Canon 80D. So no clean HDMI output that I am aware of. So Rebecca, that's a really good point about that. And we should probably talk about clean HDMI. So I've talked about webcams such as the Logitech, and there are other webcams out there, of course. But if you want to take things to the next level, you might want to get a digital SLR, or you might want to get a mirrorless camera. Now, there are two ways of connecting those kind of cameras to your computer. The more traditional way is to, if the camera has an HDMI output, you basically then will take that and plug that into an HDMI converter, such as the Camlink. So this is a really popular one. It's got USB. You plug that into your computer on that end, and on the other end, you plug the HDMI cable from your camera into this. And this effectively turns your digital SLR or mirrorless camera into a webcam that your computer can use. And you can use it in any tool, whether it's Restream Studio or Zoom or whatever. It basically allows you to do that. But there's a problem, as Rebecca was talking about, clean HDMI. So I wonder whether you've all heard of clean HDMI. So the HDMI output of these cameras will take whatever you see on the LCD screen. So often you'll see, for example, some numbers, you'll see some arrows, you'll probably see a focus square on that. And that's just to show you when you're taking a photo or a video, give you some extra information. But you don't want that information to be on your stream. You don't want to go live and it tells you how your battery is doing at the top. That's not going to look very professional. So some cameras have a clean HDMI setting. So this basically removes all of those extra bits from the HDMI output. So it means that when you plug it into your computer, you just get your video. Now, unfortunately, not all cameras have clean HDMI. So you need to do some research for this. So what I would recommend is to do a Google for Elgato compatible. Let's have a look. Compatible cameras. Let me just find the link for you. I should have done this before. There's a Camlink camera check. So let me just share my screen. So I'm going to just unshare that and I'll show you this because this is really, really helpful. And then I'm going to show you a workaround because it's not the end of the world. So let's go to camera check here. Okay, so hopefully you can see this. Okay, cool. So if you go to this now, you don't have to just use the Camlink, but this is a great resource that will tell you whether if your camera has a clean HDMI output. So I think, Rebecca, what did you say you had? You have the 80D. So let's look at Canon. Let's go down. So you can see some of them have a green dot, some of them have a little cross. So let's have a look. So the 80D has a green dot. So clean HDMI, there's a question mark here. It looks like it does. It looks like it does have clean HDMI. It has max resolution. You can have full HD. It recommends that you can put a dummy battery into this, so you're not just relying on your battery power. So you basically, a dummy battery allows you to plug your camera into the mains. So it looks like it's all good. If you have the 70D though, there are some issues here. I'm not sure what the issue is there. What's it say? There is a note, but I don't know what it is. So yeah, basically check here to see whether your camera has a clean HDMI or not. Now, there is a workaround if you have a Canon camera, because you don't have to rely on one of these or the any HDMI and things like that. You can actually plug it directly into your computer via USB. And I don't think all Canon cameras are compatible with this, but pretty much all of them are. Canon now actually has software for Mac and PC that will effectively turn your Canon DSLR camera or mirrorless camera into a webcam. So you can do that really, really easily, and it's great. There's also for PC, there's a great tool called SparkoCam. So SparkoCam works with Nikon and Canon cameras, and it will effectively turn those cameras into webcams. It uses USB, so the quality isn't quite as good as HDMI, but it's still pretty good. On a Mac, you can use the Canon software, or if you have Ecamm Live also has that facility, so you can plug your camera directly into your computer, and Ecamm Live will turn that into a webcam, virtual webcam. So, for example, you could use Ecamm Live with Restream Studio, which works really well. So, a little bit geeky. I wasn't necessarily going to go into that. So, Rebecca, I hope that helps. Let me know how you get on with that. So, we're talking about lenses now. So, I'm not going to go talk much about lenses. Maybe we can talk about that in a later one. But when we get onto lenses, this is the great thing about those digital SLRs and mirrorless cameras. You can upgrade the lenses, and so one thing that I really like is to go for one that has gives you that blurred background. So you go for a wide aperture. That works really, really well. Melissa says, I use the Logitech C922. It's a great one. Really, really recommend that. And Gary says, I use my iPhone camera to restream. So let me know how you do that. Are you using, I think it's Epoch Cam, allows you, so basically it's software on your iPhone that will effectively turn that into a webcam that you can use on your computer. I haven't actually played with that, so definitely check that. Melissa says, I have both the iMac and a MacBook Pro. So you can, the great thing is you can use your C920 with both of those. Dave Brown says OBS now has an AI noise suppression for audio. I've not checked that out. So if you're using OBS Studio to broadcast to Restream, you could use that. And as I said, in Restream Studio, it has inbuilt noise cancellation and reduction, which is great. Awesome. Rob says, I'm in the same boat with my M50. So I think you're talking about lenses there. I don't know. Gabriel says, hi from Santo Domingo. Great to see you here. Mark says, yes, Ian, I have an internal black magic capture card. So I assume by that, okay, so you've got a PC, you've got a black magic capture card in your PC for my Sony production camera to, oh my goodness, right, that is so cool. I'd love to see your setup. Awesome. So Eduza says, watching on, where are you watching? On YouTube. I first started recording with a $50 camera and a $30 mic. I've already produced 2 live shows and I'm upgrading my gear as we speak. That's awesome. Congratulations. So you don't need to start with mega expensive stuff at all. Di Medina says, if you already have a DSLR by Canon, you can download their free webcam utility and use it without Camlink, which is what I was saying. So yeah, definitely check that out. It's not as good quality as using the Camlink in most cases, but it's really good. So you say you're using the 6D Mark II that way and it works like a charm. Yeah, definitely. I think it's the easiest way. But if you've got extra budget and you're wanting better quality, then you can get the Camlink. It's totally optional though. Yeah, so we've got a question from Jay Cattrall. It says, can we use a green screen? Awesome. So let's talk about green screens. Now, at the moment, in Restream Studio, there's no green screen facility yet, but the team at Restream are working on some really, really cool things. So just be patient. I'm sure it's coming. But I do want to show you a little bit about green screens. Green screens are totally optional. In fact, I would tend to recommend against them for beginners because the thing about green screens is that they can look really bad. So you don't want, you get that kind of green halo around yourself. And there's 2 things that make a big difference when it comes to green screen. The first is, I think you need to have a reasonably decent camera because a basic camera is going to not look great. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing is lighting. And I will talk about lighting in a minute, but lighting is also really, really important. I was going to talk about lighting before green screens, but let's just talk about green screens since you asked that question. So green screens, I'm going to show you what I've got. And to be honest, I don't really use my green screen that often. Now, where's my... This is typical. Where's it gone? Oh, there we go. I forgot. I couldn't find where my Logitech was. So let me just show you my setup for this. So I'm going to go on my C920. Now, you have to excuse my room because it's a bit of a state. But down here, hopefully you can see I've got my Elgato. This is an Elgato green screen. And the reason I like this is because it's I can put it away really easily and I can just pull it up from the floor. So if you're wanting something cheap, you can buy some green screens very, very inexpensively. The downside is that it takes ages to put up or put down. But I'll just show you how this works. So I'm going to go away from a microphone so you won't be able to hear me. Okay, so I can just pull it up like this. And there we go. And then just behind it, it just holds it up like that. So let's just go back to my... So there we go. So I've now got a green screen behind me. Now, as I said, in Restream Studio, you can't yet replace the green screen. But if I bring in, let's just bring in through another app, I can switch on green screen now. So I've now got a brick wall behind me. Let's change that to maybe, let's go to the beach. So that looks nice. Or maybe palm trees. Does that look good? Should we have that? Yeah, that looks good. I think that looks good. So let's do that. Let's have that, I think. I've just realized I've lost that side. Yeah, I lost my Go Live with Restream logo. That's no good. So there we go. So that's green screen. Now I've got pretty good lighting. I think that looks okay. It's not perfect, but you can change. You know, if I change the effect level, I can get it pretty good. If I do that though, I disappear. Which we don't want. So that's green screen. But I think for most people, you don't need to start off with that. So that is green screen. So I'm going to just put that down. There we go. Right. Okay, cool. So that's green screen. So let's have a look at the comments and see what other people are asking. So, so Rebecca was saying, weird, from what I had researched, I had to turn off autofocus. Now that's, so I don't know for certain. On the M50, if you use the cam link, you have to switch off autofocus. So that's one downside. So some of them you have to switch off autofocus and you have to go manual. That might not be a big deal for most people. But as you can probably see, I've actually got autofocus on. I'm using it, I plugged it in directly using USB. So that's the other thing that you can do. And I haven't tested this out. This is one of the things I want to test, is you can plug in via USB and HDMI. So the USB will remove the autofocus bits, and you can then use this as well. But anyway, I haven't tested that out yet, but that's the next thing that I want to do. Great. Okay, so Lisa says, this is interesting. Thanks for all the info. Do you also talk about audio configuration? So I did talk about that. I don't know if you just joined us, Lisa, but if you want to watch the replay, I talked a little bit about that. I use an audio interface Scarlett Solo, which is great. I use the 2i2, which is very similar, and a dynamic microphone. Yeah, that's what I use here. I have to connect everything with line in because I used ASIO CO audio drivers. So that is something that I don't know much about. So I don't know what the problem is there, but I'm going to leave that for other people to comment on because I haven't used those drivers. Mark says, I've been experimenting with some really cheap £20 USB capture cards and was surprised how well they worked. And I've heard the same, Mark. So the Camlink is not cheap, but there are some inexpensive USB capture cards that you could experiment with, which is great. Tyler says to Rebecca, I typically set mine to manual focus. If you have face tracking on, I believe it does show the tracking square. So I haven't tested that. I'll have to look into that. So Rob says, I use green screen via OBS into Restream. So that's, yes. So I was using Ecamm Live there to demonstrate that. But you could use OBS Studio. It's quite easy. Well, OBS Studio is not easy. It's that's why I recommend Restream Studio. But if you're a PC user and you look for something free, then OBS is great, and you can do green screen and bring that into Restream Studio. But yeah, hopefully that will Restream Studio will add that in at some point. Great. Okay, so we've talked about green screens. Let's talk about lighting. My goodness, so much to talk about. I think I'm going to have to do another show talking about tools. Maybe I'll do that next week. We've just talked about gear today. So lighting. Right. Okay. So now lighting it's a really big topic, and loads of people have different ideas on lighting. So if you are going live during the day, then the cheapest option is this thing called the sun. It's great. So if you can practice, if you're in front of a window and you've got good sunlight streaming through, then that's a great way to get good lighting, as long as you're doing it during the day and as long as you are facing the sun. But for many of us, I mean, I live near Manchester. It's not really that sunny that often, particularly at this time of year. And at the moment, it is actually dark outside. So it's nearly 5 o'clock in the evening here, and it's dark outside. It's depressing. So lighting is really important for me. So you can get lighting. You can buy some lighting from Amazon. Probably the cheapest one are the soft boxes. And you can buy these very inexpensively. The problem with softboxes are that they're very big, they're bulky, and they also get really hot. So the other thing that you can get are LED lights. So I've got one here. So I'm out of focus again. That autofocus. So this one is from Newer, and this is the 480 LED. I really like this. So I actually have I have 3 of these, and this is particularly good for green screens as well. So the newer ones are really good, but you can get some much less expensive ones. Just do a search for LED lights on Amazon, and you can buy them very inexpensively. So LED lights are great as well. But, and you knew there was going to be a but, if you have the budget for this, I would highly recommend the Elgato key light. Now, this show is not sponsored by Elgato. It just happens to be that Elgato do a lot of really cool gear for live streamers. Now, the key light, so let me just show you this. I'm going to share this again. So let me just go to share screen and Chrome tab, and then go to this. So this is my gear guide. So if I just scroll down here, where's lighting? Switches. Oh yeah, I've got switches. So I'll talk a little bit more about switches next time. So the Stream Decks are awesome tools. I've got a mat for when you stand. It's an anti-fatigue mat. So here we go, lighting. So this is the newer 480. Am I actually sharing my screen at the moment? I'm not. Apologies, everyone. I always forget to do that. So I'll just go back up again so that you can see. So yeah, there's the switches. There's the Stream Deck. This is the anti-fatigue standing mat from CubeFit. This is iag.me/gear guide. Then this is the newer 480 lights that I've got, but there are some alternatives here. So if you're wanting something that's inexpensive, is the Young Nuo YN300 Air Pro LED. That's a less expensive one. I will tell you how much that costs in a minute. So actually, let me just go back to that. I'll open that in the new tab. So there's that. But the Elgato key light, I'm actually using one in front of me. The great thing about the Elgato key light is that you can change the color temperature and the brightness directly from your computer. And so you don't have to keep going back and forth to get the best setting. And that changed everything for me. I really struggled with lighting until I got that. So the Elgato key light is not cheap. It's around the $200. It's under a mark, or about £190 if you're in the UK. So it's not cheap. But if you've got the budget, I really recommend the Elgato key light. The Young Nuo one is about $50 for that. So it's a lot cheaper. So those are some examples there. And I've also got the green screen there. Okay, cool. That is lighting. Let's go back to the chat. Yes, it is raining in Manchester. It always rains in Manchester. So Lisa says, I have newer 2-pack dimmable 5600K USB LED video lights. It was really cheap, but sometimes my face is overexposed. So maybe is it possible? It is dimmable on there, so you might just want to just change the temperature on that, just the brightness on that, just to bring it down. And I had the same with my newer ones. They're more expensive, the ones I think I have than what you've got. But I found that I just found it really difficult to get the right brightness. That's why I like the key light, because you can do it directly from your computer. I don't think let me just see if I've actually got this. So I should be able to set this. I don't actually have the Elgato app up and running here, but let me just do that now. So I've got that. So I can do things like, for example, go to 50%. Is that gone? No, hold on. Yeah, go darker. Like that. I can go brighter. That's far too much, but let's go back to there. So you can do things like that. I can also change the color temperature. This is directly from my computer or from my Stream Deck. So I really like that, that side of things. Now, you may have realized I've not talked about ring lights. And I personally don't like ring lights. So that I'm just going to say it like that. The reason I don't like key lights is, number one, it's really bad if you wear glasses because you tend to get a lot of reflection. So you would have to put the key light, so the ring lights up and angle it down. And that then you lose the point of having a ring light. Even if you don't wear glasses, I still think it gives you that weird alien feeling, the alien look, reflection in your light, in your eyes. So I personally don't like them. I think there are better ones out there, such as the Elgato key lights and the other ones that I recommended. So I hope that was helpful when it comes to lighting. So we've run out of time. So what I will talk about next week, or in a future episode, I'll talk about other gear, tools and apps as well. So maybe if you could have a think about this, what are the other tools that you use with your live video setup? I'm going to talk about some other tools and apps that you can use to really level up your studio and the whole experience, really. Do check out Restream. Go to iag.me/Restream. You can use it for free. Restream Studio works directly in the browser. You can also use Restream with other tools out there. It's awesome. It's what I use every single time I go live. In fact, last week I used Restream Studio to broadcast a really big event. So this was Janet Murray in the UK. We were streaming for over 500 attendees for a big conference, and it was amazing. We wouldn't have done without Restream. It was an integral part of what we were doing. So definitely check that out. And do keep the comments and the questions coming. Do check out Restream, the Restream channels as well. I'm just going to move up my show notes here so that I know what I'm going to be talking about next. So next week, I'll let you know a little bit more about who we're going to have on. We've got some special guests coming up as well, which is going to be really cool. I'll let you know a little bit more about that as well. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be with you today. I really don't take for granted you spending this time with me. I really find that humbling. It's awesome. Thank you so much. But just to let you know, we're live every single Tuesday at 4 p.m. in the UK. That's 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. And do check out all the other Restream shows. There are at least one per day. Sometimes there are more than one per day. Check out the Restream channels. And of course, you can if you want to get notified for future shows, I forgot to mention this before, but if you go to confident.live/Restream, that's confident.live/Restream, my handy Facebook Messenger bot will remind you of future shows as well. So that's awesome. Well, until next time, I encourage you to expand your audience and reach through the power of multi-streaming video. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Go Live with Restream from Ian Anderson Gray, the show from Restream that helps you expand your audience and reach through the power of multi-streaming video. Visit iag.me/Restream for more. And until next time, toodaloo.